right, so this is going to be another movie review. This one's called Directed by John Ford, 1971. I'm giving it 2 out of 5 stars. I dislike this one. I'm not a John Ford fan. He's just one of these patriotic numbskulls, war mongering idiot, just like his buddy John Wayne, the Duke. But I did like a couple of his movies, Judge Priest and The Searchers. The other stuff is is very overrated in my opinion, as is the problem with a lot of the narrator of this movie has a lot of movies that are overrated, namely Orson Welles. Citizen Kane is not a great movie. I don't care what anybody says, and I'm not the only one who says that. I think Vertigo recently replaced it as the greatest movie of all time, even though Vertigo was pretty much ignored at the time it came out. I don't know much about Citizen Kane, but directed by John Ford is a documentary film directed by Peter Bogdanovich, also written by Peter Bogdanovich. Originally released in 1971, it covers the life and career of film director John Ford. Bogdanovich first met John Ford in 1963 on the set of Ford's film Cheyenne Autumn. Interviewing the veteran filmmaker for a piece in Esquire magazine, one in a series of profiles of famous directors. Ford, who typically despised interviews, perversely decided to be accommodating after he witnessed a production assistant warning Bogdanovich and his then wife, Polly Platt, about Ford's difficult nature. Ford occasionally found himself exasperated by Bogdanovich's questions, but he also enjoyed his company, and he amused himself by needling the young man and pulling his leg. Bogdanovich's Esquire piece temporarily produced some measure of friction between the two, as Bogdanovich did not remove the profanity from Ford's quotes in his initial draft to Ford's displeasure. Ford described it as nauseating. He was also unhappy with the tone of the piece entitled The Autumn of John Ford because he resented the implication that his time as a director was nearing its end. Despite this, Bogdanovich and Ford remained friends. In 1967, Bogdanovich completed an interview book about Ford, which was published in England. Ford affected a lack of interest in the work, describing it as a caricature, and claiming that he threw his copy away after reading the first 3 pages, though in reality he purchased more than 200 copies. The next year, Bogdanovich began working on Directed by John Ford. This movie. All right. Production company American Film Institute. Release date October 6, 1971. The runtime is the 1971 version is 99 minutes runtime, and then the Turner Classic 2006 version is 108 minutes. I watched the Turner Classic Movies 2006 version, country, United States language, English. Bogdanovich conducted interviews with actors Henry Fonda, James Stewart, and John Wayne, as well as Ford himself. Orson Welles delivered an original narration, which was recorded in a Howard Johnson's while Welles was directing The Other Side of the Wind during a 20-minute break in filming. Bogdanovich also interviewed Ford in Monument Valley, a location Ford had used in some of his own films, producing footage that Bogdanovich described as one of the funnier sequences in the picture. Ford, who was partially deaf and who did not enjoy discussing his work, would routinely make interviewers sit on the side of his bad ear and then indicate that he was unable to understand the questions he was being asked. Whether his interrogators ultimately succeeded in making themselves understood, he would deliver only monosymbolic responses. Ford's behavior in his interview with Bogdanovich accordingly delivered little useful information, but it pleased Bogdanovich anyway because he felt it was an accurate depiction of Ford's character. He was downright rude to Bogdanovich. It's like Will Clark in the clubhouse with his least favorite sports writer, Jeff Pearlman. That's the kind of interview it is. During production, the American Film Institute exhausted its funding, and it was unable to purchase the rights to the film clips of Ford's work used in the documentary. As a result, the film could only be shown in non-profit venues such as free screenings at film festivals or one fundraiser for PBS. For this reason, it was rarely seen after its initial release. Bogdanovich had long been dissatisfied with the initial version of the film for several reasons. In addition to the rights issues, he felt that some of the film clips used came across as a little long and lugubrious, and he was unhappy that the film did not go into sufficient depth when exploring certain aspects of Ford's personal life, which were either unknown at the time the film was made or too controversial to include during Ford's lifetime. The original version of Directed by John Ford was shown at the 1999 Telluride Festival, garnering a strong positive reaction, and the success led Bogdanovich to believe that a re-edited version might be a viable option. He delivered a pitch to producer Frank Marshall, an old friend with whom he had first worked on the 1968 film Targets, which is a great movie, promising to use all the good stuff and do some interviews with new people and jazz it up a little bit and make it more commercial, faster, and incisive, and also more revealing. Marshall, in turn, brokered a deal with Turner Classic Movies and Warner Home Video. When re-editing the film, Bogdanovich started with the original set of interviews with Fonda, Ford, Stewart, and Wayne, as well as the Welles narration. To supplement them, he conducted additional interviews with actors Carey Jr., Clint Eastwood, and Maureen O'Hara, and directors Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, and Walter Hill. He also recorded some additional commentary on his own. On November 7, 2006, the revised documentary was aired on Turner Classic Movies channel as part of a month-long tribute to Ford. On September 15, 2009, the revised documentary was released on DVD. like I said, I'm not too crazy about John Ford. He's a lamestream movie director. The It was interesting though. What Steven Spielberg said, another lamestream director. He said the framing of the horizon has to be on the top or the bottom, never the middle, and that's the only thing that will make you a great director. I thought that was kind of interesting. The rest of the movie didn't have enough footage of the searchers or Judge Prieston. It was basically a bunch of patriotic nonsense. His other lesser quality movies, basically an unattributed review in Time, characterized the initial cut of the film as a piece of lightweight scholarship in which Ford's every blemish is a virtue and no detail is too trivial to examine. Though dismissive of Bogdanovich's critical analysis within the film, the reviewer was more positive about the interview segments in which Fonda, Stewart, and Wayne displayed the terror and awe of young and callow actors when discussing Ford. Reviewing the film for the New York Times, critic Roger Greenspun praised it as a workmanlike, amusing, and instructive, and noticed that on several occasions he was moved literally to tears while watching it. However, he also expressed disappointment that the film did not place the end of Ford's career into what he felt to be the proper context, ignoring such films as Donovan's Reef and Seven Women and glossing over the modest critical and box office reception that characterized the end of Ford's career. Ford was honored at a high-profile Hollywood event on November 23rd, 1973, which included a showing of Directed by John Ford. When asked what he thought of the film, Ford said that it was long and the print was bad. In a review published in Variety, Todd McCarthy was largely positive. He praised the interviews with Fonda, Stewart, and Wayne, describing them as possessing an extraordinary here and now immediacy. And McCarthy found the interview with Ford hilarious. He was less enthusiastic about some of the newer interviews, which were shot on video, feeling that they lacked the vibrant look and elegant mobility of the earlier interviews recorded on film by a dolly mounted camera. He did, however, single out Lindsay Anderson's 1992 interview with Maureen O'Hara, a deathbed recording of Ford speaking with Katharine Hepburn, and a more honest treatment of Ford's personal life illustrated by scenes from How Green Was My Valley as worthwhile additions to the updated version. According to Bogdanovich, Ford was instrumental in breaking up a planned film, The Streets of Laredo, after the song of that name that Bogdanovich would have directed. It was to have starred Fonda, Stewart, and Wayne, but Bogdanovich claims that Ford talked Wayne out of participating, causing the project's collapse. Bogdanovich voiced the belief that the work would have been my masterpiece, but Bogdanovich was unwilling to speak about Ford's motives in acting as he did. The screenplay, written by Larry McMurtry, author of the source novel of Bogdanovich's The Last Picture Show, would become the basis of McMurtry's novel Lonesome Dove, which later became a television show. I used to have the Lonesome Dove VHS tapes. Bogdanovich later developed a one-man stage show called Sacred Monsters, in which he related anecdotes about his filmmaking career and Bogdanovich performed impressions, including one of Ford. All right. Nobody in the chat room. Directed by John Ford, 1971, 1 hour, 39 minutes. Gets a whopping 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb, 1,400 ratings. A documentary on the life and films of director John Ford. Okay, here's a review of the 2006 version, which is the one that I just watched. This review is from Michael Elliott, dated March 1st, 2008. And the title of the review on IMDb is 2006 version, directed by John Ford, 2006. I guess I should change the date from 1971 to 2006. Here's a more flattering review, giving it 4 out of 4 stars. I'm giving it 1 out of 4 stars. Peter Bogdanovich directs this documentary on the life and career of the legendary director. Vintage interviews with John Wayne, Henry Fonda, and James Stewart are mixed with newer interviews with Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, and Clint Eastwood, among others. The doc does a great job at showing what made Ford some great director. And I really enjoyed the scenes where they show clips from countless films in a row, showing you how Ford likes certain themes in his film. I don't really particularly care for Ford themes. I mean, he's pretty much a Western director, and he pretty much uses the same kind of backdrops in each film. They get old and tired after a while. There's one section where they cover 180 years of history shown through Ford's films. Oh, that's another thing. It's very flattering portrait of Abraham Lincoln. I haven't seen Ford's Abraham Lincoln movie, but it looks awful. There's one section, I do wish the documentary had spent more time with Ford's career in the late 1910s. There's also another segment which I felt shouldn't have been included. There's a recorded conversation between Ford and Katharine Hepburn, which was great to hear, but the recorder was left on when the two didn't know it was running. The audio recording might show Ford at a softer moment, but I really didn't feel comfortable listening to it. Me too. I thought it was kind of dirty, like pillow talk. These two having an affair. John Ford and Katharine Hepburn. More like this Stanley Kubrick, A Life in Pictures. The Last Picture Show, The Last Tycoon, and Hearts of Darkness. A filmmaker's apocalypse. Steven Spielberg's real account on how he met John Ford when he was a teenager was recreated in The Fabelmans 2022. Here's a quote: Ford, you know, you will live forever because his films will live forever. Uh, Featured in AFI Life Achievement Award, AFI Life Achievement Award, a tribute to John Ford, 1973. Release date October 6, 1971 in the US. Country of origin US. Language English, also known as director John Ford. Filming locations Kayenta, Arizona, USA. Production companies American Film Institute, AFI, and California Arts Commission. Runtime 1 hour 39 minutes, 99 minutes. That's the 1971 version. I think there might be 9 more minutes on the 2006 version. Got to correct the dates on there. This is in color. The sound mix is mono, and the aspect ratio is 1.37 to 1. So not a great film. I don't care about John Ford or lamestream cinema. Like I said, he's made a couple of gems, but those are few and far between. And I've seen a lot of John Ford movies. It's mostly westerns, and I don't know. It's pretty much the same old, same old. It's like milking a cow. If you do something really well in the mainstream studio section of Hollywood, then you just keep repeating the same formula over and over again. And that's how you make money in Hollywood as a lamestream director. That's my opinion of directed by John Ford. Okay, going down the movies list. Number 1, we've got Brian's Story, 2021. Number 2 is The Black Connection, 1974. And then number 3 is Incident on a Dark Street, 1973. I said I wasn't going to get to 4 today. I'm about midday, and it looks like I'll only get to 3 if I can finish The Black Connection, and then I'll probably do Incident on a Dark Street on Monday night. So that's the plan. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up early and do laundry like I usually do on Sunday, and in between loads, I'll add some more Canon films. Canon films. All right. So that's the plan for this weekend. Hope you're having a nice week. Thank you for checking out my videos. And right now I'm going to watch Brian's Story, and I'll put a quick review up. Wish me luck.